This video was made possible by viewers like you who decided on backing me on Patreon. I thank you so much for your continued support.
The number one killer is time. It destroys us all. This is what you need to know. Time broke. A growing fracture leading to the end of time. We went after a device that could fix it. Things turned ugly. Pulse Stream was there to stop us. He has superpowers.
Jack?
Him and me both. We failed.
Jack.
And of course, time travel was involved.
Jack.
Going too fast for you? Okay. What do you want to cover first? You tell me.
Let's start at the beginning. When you first arrived at Riverport University.
Growing up, I'm sure a lot of you have been asked the question, if you could have any superpower, what would it be? For me, I've always found manipulating time as a fascinating superpower, and if I had the choice to obtain any sort of superpower, time travel or time manipulation would in fact be the power I would pick. I've always had this fascination and this yearning to learn more and more about how time travel works and how just time in general and time manipulation. I'm a sucker for that sort of narrative plot point. So I'm sure you could imagine how I felt when Quantum Break was revealed. Ever since the game was first revealed up to when it released, I was always keeping my eye on it. Unfortunately, during that time, I never had an Xbox One, but I did say multiple times that if it came down to it, I would rent an Xbox One because I really wanted to play the game. Luckily for me, Quantum Break was surprisingly revealed to come not only to Xbox One, but also to Windows 10. This was the main reason why I actually upgraded from my previous operating system, was to play this game. Now, after spending hours with Quantum Break, I have compiled once again a Mind The Ethos analysis of this game. There's a lot of things I want to discuss, but I wanted to narrow down to these main topics regarding Quantum Break: Remedy storytelling, bullet time gameplay, performance, and not enough time. Let's get started.
There's no use fighting.
You killed him!
I'll explain when the time is right. You'll meet me tonight at the Monarch Gala.
Gala? Time's ending and you're having a fucking party.
Because when time ends, my plan...
We do this now. I'm not meeting
Yes,
you at...
you are. I've already seen it happen.
There's a reason why I want to discuss the story of Quantum Break before we get into anything else. I personally feel that it is the strongest aspect of Quantum Break, and any person who's looking for an enjoyable narrative with a very in-depth scientific time travel twist to it definitely should check this game out without a doubt. But before I even get into Quantum Break's story, and I'm gonna stay away from spoilers because there's a great story here and I don't want to spoil it for anybody who has not played the game yet. But before I get to this, I want to go back. I want to discuss who Remedy is. Remedy is not a very well-known developer by a lot of people. They aren't really even known as a huge studio, and that's because they're an independent studio. They aren't owned by anybody, a publisher. They're similar to CD Projekt Red in that aspect, similar to Epic Games as well. They have this mantra, again, of being passionate about making games and just making the best game that they've ever made. And before I did this video, I actually sat down and I watched this really good documentary called Remedy Entertainment on Complex. I highly recommend that you watch it because it gives a great history of who Remedy Games is and where they came from and where they are now. And I feel like it will give you a greater appreciation for Quantum Break after you watch it, because you really can't understand Quantum Break's story and where they've come from. Personally, it's hard for me to explain why I like this game's story so much until you take a look at Remedy's past. For the older gamers out there, I'm pretty sure you know without a doubt the most famous game that Remedy is responsible for is Max Payne. Yes, they are the people who created Max Payne, the amazing gameplay mechanic known as bullet time. inspired from action movies, this amazing new gameplay mechanic allowed the player to slowing down time and doing crazy flips and jumps while shooting at your opponents. This has been iterated from Max Payne 1 to Max Payne 2 to Max Payne 3. It's important to note that they were the first ones to do it. And one of them said in the interview, and it was really spot on, they said that Max Payne, it was important in the gaming industry for the time that it came out because it proved how important story was even for action games. And that's something I feel Remedy has been underappreciated for, is their ability to tell a story, to create a narrative in video games that is engaging and it's unique. They don't follow the mainstream vibe of how the industry is currently moving when it comes to narrative. They usually go off of their own path and their own themes of what they wish to express. What you get with Quantum Break is not only a very well detailed universe, but you get fantastic lore, tons of backstory due to the live action series, which I will talk about, and the attention to detail. Not only the graphics and the different collectibles littered around the game, but their attention to detail when it comes to the science behind time travel and the science behind Quantum Break. Now, I'm not a scientist and I don't know all the in-depth because a lot of it is just pure theory work of how time travel can work. But I will say, after beating this game, I actually spent an hour going more in depth on certain things they were talking about in the game. One principle that I learned by playing this game is the Nova Kid self-consistency principle, which is essentially the main narrative theme of the story, but also the rule that grounds the entire game in reality. Basically states that no matter what you do, you cannot change time. So even if you by choice want to fix something or change something in the time stream, whether past, present, or future, it is not going to change. It will always end up being the original result, and you can never change it. No matter if you try something else, it will always end up becoming reality. This is the main theme that drives both Jack Joyce and Paul Serene, as they represent different opinions on this principle. Paul Serene is more of a pragmatist who has seen the future and has seen the end of time, and through that he's understood that the principle is true and you cannot stop it. All you can do is adapt. While Jack Joyce is the opposite. He's more of an optimist. He believes that time can be changed and you should never give up or give in to fate. Again, this story not only challenges science principles but philosophical, and there's also a couple metaphors here and there regarding religion. They have this idea where they want to keep pushing narrative. They want to find new and different cool ways that they can tell a game story instead of the ways that have been dictated year after year after year that pretty much almost every other game follow. But more specifically, I want to point out that in Alan Wake, they actually had a TV show inside of the game called Night Springs. This was actually a popular TV show in the Alan Wake universe. It was this show that you could watch at night in Alan Wake if you went up to a certain TV and you watched it. And it was actually full-on episodes. Really great stuff. The reason why I say this is because I feel like that concept was a predecessor of what they wanted to do with Quantum Break. Now, here comes my first point. Now, some people have immediately dismissed the live action part of the game and feel like it was just thrown in as filler to make the game seem longer than it actually was. First off, I really don't agree with that mindset. Mind you, to create a live action show with the quality that they did, where it's right around that quality of being a Netflix original series, I felt it was very unjustified for people to dismiss such an important part of their game, and in my opinion, the most innovative part of their game. Now, I understand the other side, and trust me, I'm a critic of that same aspect as well, that I'm playing a game, not watching a movie. Again, this is one of the reasons I was critical about the Order 1886, was because they're all their cinematic crap and their damage control for the game's performance and all that other sort of stuff that I will talk about for a separate video. But the reason I bring up this live action is because, like they stated, this has not been done for a game before. It's something brand new. It's innovative. It's something that we have not seen the industry try before. And it's great to see that Remedy has actually tried, and I see the potential that it has. Does it work? Yes, it actually does, which is why I actually recommend that if you do plan on picking Quantum Break up, that you actually watch it. Yes, I understand you're actually going to be sitting there and watching it, but the show's actually really good, the acting's really good, and it just gives you more backstory and just more lore when it comes to the Quantum Break universe. I feel it's this sort of progression and innovation that Remedy Games has had. They've always been pushing this idea of making narrative more and more interactive, and I felt that they really nailed it when it comes to Quantum Break, and that's through the dynamic choices choice system that they threw in the game. Now let me get out of the way because people will say this. Do these choices affect the ending? No, there is one ending. And to be honest with you, I think that this was done on purpose. Because if we go back to when I was talking about the Novikov self-consistency principle, basically that principle applies to their game and applies to the plot as well, that a time traveler cannot change the way time is supposed to play out. But again, getting back on point, I feel the best part of this game is the dynamic choices that happen near the end of every episode. Couple reasons for this, and I'll just get through it really quickly. The biggest reason is because it puts you in the shoes of your enemies. Paul got a greater dose of chromium radiation. This gave him the additional ability to see into the future, which he uses in these dynamic choices, where basically two choices are brought before you. Both of them are very good and very conflicting to pick one over the other. But if you actually click on the choice, he can actually go into the future and he'll know what that choice will do. Now, you actually get to see both sides of this, and you can tell there was a lot of work done to make both of these sides both have pros and cons, and not having one really seem to be the best choice, as both of them seem to have a backfire aspect. Now, the thing that makes this absolutely amazing is, like I said, you're playing as the villain when you're making these choices. That means these choices that you make as the villain will directly impact your story as you playing Jack Joyce. That means literally, as the villain, you can make your life harder or easier, and this choice makes it weird for you to decide as you start to learn more and more about Paul and his inner reasoning about why he's doing the things that he's doing. You begin to actually empathize with the villain. You start to think that maybe he might be right about time, and you might actually pick choices that make it harder for you as Jack because you maybe want Paul to win. Again, this is something that in my experience I have not seen done in a game, or should I say done well to the point that Remedy Games has done it. And not only that, the biggest thing of them all, this choice that you pick actually changes the live action series. So there's actually different versions that you can actually watch, and the live action series can get longer or shorter based off of your decisions. There's a lot of good things Remedy did with Quantum Break, but I have to say without a doubt the best aspect of this game is its story.
On your knees, now! Trojan 4, we're going inside.
I can't let you inside that building.
I said on your fucking knees. That's an order.
Hey, I'm warning you. This is not a fight you want to start.
Then stand down.
I'm not gonna do that.
He's got a gun! Oh!
Oh, God.
What about that gameplay? What about when you actually have the controller in your hands and you're actually playing the game? What is the game like? Well, it's a Remedy game in a nutshell. Let me explain. Remedy games have had this pattern where they're always about giving the player an extraordinary power, something that's outside the realms of reality that gives a sort of uniqueness toward the game. With Max Payne, it was the power of bullet time. With Alan Wake, it was the power of using light. In this game, it's the power of time, and this is a consistent theme that they've had throughout each of Remedy's games. This third-person shooter, without a doubt, is definitely more of a spiritual successor to Max Payne than it is to Alan Wake. The game allows you to directly interact and manipulate time itself, slowing down, speeding up. I'm not saying the idea of time manipulation is brand new and innovative, because there have been games in the past that have done this sort of aspect, but it does bring a cool twist to Quantum Break that does allow it to stand out of mediocrity when it comes to just generic third-person shooting controls, which is basically the other half of Quantum Break. Similar to any other third-person shooter that you play, Tomb Raider, Uncharted, they follow the same generic type of setup where you're going to be shooting at a bunch of enemies coming at you with great aggression, different enemy types, and you're going to have a nice variety of different weapons that you can use as well. Again, when it comes to the gameplay section, I feel like Remedy really just had a checklist when it comes to gameplay, and they just really checked off all the boxes when it comes to making a third-person shooter to just make sure it works. Now, this isn't a cover shooter. It's more dynamic, similar to Last of Us, where if you get in your cover, Jack will dynamically start to crouch. Some like it, some won't, because it somewhat gives you a lack of control when it comes to Jack and taking cover, but I think it was done on purpose, because you should not play this game like a third-person cover shooter. There's a reason why the powers are in the game, and they want you to use them, allowing you to rush around the level really fast and use your abilities in tandem with one another in order to kill off each of the opponents. Like I said, the game will throw different enemy AI at you, but for the most part, you're going to be able to overwhelm them if you're playing this on normal difficulty. I found playing the game on normal difficulty difficulty for the most part being around sort of being a breeze with little bits of difficulty here and there. I do recommend that if you are looking for more of a challenge when it comes to gameplay, that you do set the game on default to high, which will give you smarter and more deadly AI. While your time abilities are very overpowered and give you a distinct advantage over the enemy AI throughout the game will find ways of compensating for this mismatch by creating equipment that will allow them to fight you even when you are slowing down time and so forth. You've seen it in the demos and so forth, so I don't want to go into it because some of them are a little spoilery, but I will say that those enemies will give you a challenge and they will throw multiple enemy types at you simultaneously, and you'll have to learn how to use your abilities together in order for you to take out those enemies with ease. Now this is where the game actually has some issues, and that's when it comes to depth. Now the time abilities themselves do add depth to the game, but unfortunately there's a lack of combos when it comes to these powers. I was thinking so much while playing this game that I wish they had gone the route of Mass Effect, where you could combine different biotic and tech abilities together to create these cool combos, if you will. Quantum Break unfortunately does not have this, as for the most part, besides 2 powers, you're really not going to be able to combine everything together. At most, you'll be able to do a time dash and then use a time shield in order to knock people back. That's at most what you're going to get for a combination, but it would have been really nice if they had actually done something further and allowed for further customization or comboing when it comes to using the certain abilities, not only on different AI types in order to beat them, but it would have been nice if it followed a format similar to Super Hot, where it adds this puzzle element where it's how do I tackle this certain challenge with these tools of time manipulation. This is even shown further when you look at the upgrade screen, where there's a huge lack of just diversity and different types of customization when it comes to upgrading your powers. It's pretty much generic: reduce cooldown, make the ability more powerful, or make it have a wider blast range. Basically generic upgrades that you expect of most, if not all, skill trees. Alright, with that stuff out of the way, let's talk about performance. Now, like I've said in a ton of other videos, I'm a huge proponent to making sure that developers just make a game that works. Is it that hard to ask for? Why I even have to argue with people regarding demanding better quality for their games is beyond me. But besides that, there's been a huge amount of different information when it comes to Quantum Break's performance on PC. This is more for the PC guys. If you're playing on Xbox, it works perfectly fine. I believe it runs at 30 frames almost consistently, so you're fine there. But if you're on PC, there's a couple things I want to talk about. I have an i7-4790K and a 980 Ti. Again, these are very high-end parts. I've had no issues with the game. There were reports that there was stuttering and stuff like that the day one when it came out, but when I installed it a day after, I had no issues. Mind you, I did not upgrade my NVIDIA drivers when I played this game. I actually have drivers from maybe a month back, but it ran perfectly fine. Unfortunately, this game runs on the Windows Universal app, and if you're a PC gamer, I know you just sighed, because it is the most annoying, stupid thing Microsoft has been doing with PC games regarding bringing these games to PC. Instead of doing it the regular way, they're using their own different format in order to lock games up and make them hard to mod, hard to fix, and basically you can't do jack to them. There is no full screen mode for Quantum Break. I repeat, there's no full screen mode for Quantum Break. That means you're playing in borderless window. Now, can you record this game? Yes. When it comes to performance, I really didn't even have any frame rate issues. I was consistently playing around 60 to 70 FPS, playing on my 21:9 Ultra screen, 34-inch, and the game is half-ass 21:9 compatible. Good news is it will not black bar you on cutscenes or playing anything at all, which is great. But on the bad side, it's not true. It doesn't give you extra space to see more compared to a person on 1080p. It more stretches the image. So if you really care about that, I didn't really notice the stretch while playing it, and it looked great either way. So just keep that in mind if you have the same type of monitor I have. On top of that, if you watch Digital Foundry or you watch gameplay, you may notice that the PC and the Xbox version don't look that much differently. While the Xbox version is definitely on medium settings, even playing this game on Ultra, the medium settings seem to almost close, if not the same as the Ultra versions. This is due to what Remedy did in order to get the game to work on Xbox to run at a 1080p solution. It's called temporal reconstruction. Basically, they take a base resolution, which the game is actually based at 720, and then it upscales it and adds additional details when you start upscaling to bigger resolutions. The pro to this is that there's better optimization with the game. The con for this, however, is it holds back the game's true graphical fidelity because you aren't playing at a natural resolution. This means textures and particle effects can look blurry at sometimes and have artifacting. So no matter even if you're playing at 4K, it still starts at a 720 base, and then it's like they're expanding it, making it bigger so it fits your monitor, while cleaning in little blemishes. Does it still look nice? Yes. But can it and should it have looked better on PC? Yes. It's a little bit lower than Rise of the Tomb Raider's graphics, and I feel like if they had just done a native resolution for the PC version, or hopefully they patch it in, it will look just that good. It's still a great looking game, but there are definitely moments where it can look a little bit blurry at times. A little personal warning from the experience I've had: by the time I got near the last quarter of the game, I started to get a huge migraine playing this game due to the different particle effects, firing off, fracturing the screen, and so forth. It looks great, but if you continuously watch it over and over again, you're gonna get eye strain and even a headache like me. After I beat the game, I had a huge headache and I just went to sleep after beating it. So just keep that in mind. I do recommend, if you are playing this game, don't beat it in one session like I do. Take times, take breaks in between the acts, because for me personally, it did give me a sense of motion sickness, and it was really jarring to play in the last act. And last but not least, one of the biggest things I want to talk about is time and content. There's been a lot of misinformation when it comes to this game's time and replayability, and I wanted to confirm this with you guys now. Apparently there was some Xbox screenshot shown of the achievement saying they beat the game, and it said they only clocked in 3 hours. I checked this and I found that it's actually a glitch with the Xbox, because it told me after I beat the game that I only put 2 hours into it, but I know for a fact by just looking at my clock that I spent way more time than just 2 hours on this game. I would say that this game ranges around 8 to 10 hours. For me, I clocked in about 10 hours, but that was because I was also watching the live action series. So from what Remedy has said, the live action series is normally around the size of a regular TV episode, so around 24 minutes. So if you add that on, 30 minutes at most, you might be getting around 8-9 hour mark if you're playing this game on normal or you're rushing through it really fast. Biggest thing I can say about Quantum Break is do not rush the game, do not skip the live action series. There's so much lore and so much detail that you can tell the developers spent a lot of time working on, and it would be a shame for you to just dismiss it and throw it all away because you're trying to beat the game as fast as possible. Does this game have replayability? Yes, due to the dynamic choices in the game where you're gonna have two options. Essentially, you could play this game twice and see a different side. Like I stated, based off of your choices, you can also change the live action series. So there is that replayability there when it comes to story. When it comes to gameplay, however, you're not going to get that much of a mix-up unless you play on a harder difficulty, which is just going to make the enemy AI different. But outside of that, what you're getting here is essentially a well-done single-player only experience. For some gamers, that's good enough, while others may feel that it's not worth that much money for them to play just for a single experience that they might not even play for a second time around. I did thoroughly enjoy my time playing Quantum Break. I feel like Quantum Break isn't necessarily this innovative game as a whole, but I will say that it's right in that nice sweet spot where it's right above being just average, but it's not necessarily there where it's going to be one of the most memorable games of this generation. I do, however, see great potential with Quantum Break, and due to the amount of detail and just the huge amount of content when it comes to the universe that they've created, there's just so many other stories that can be told in this universe, and I hope that they do explore the world of Quantum Break more. That is, after you guys release fucking Alan Wake 2, because everybody is begging for it. Give us Alan Wake 2, please, Remedy. But yeah, those are my in-depth thoughts on Quantum Break. I appreciate all of you for watching this video all the way through, and I hope you enjoyed this thorough analysis. Again, I do highly recommend that you check out the documentary regarding Remedy games. There's a great amount of gaming history there, and I do highly recommend that if you do decide on picking up Quantum Break and you do enjoy it, that you go back and you play the older games that Remedy has brought out, because I feel that they're very underappreciated by gamers. Once again, my name is Ethos. This has been another Mind the Ethos episode, and I'll see you guys on the next one.